tell me a little bit about what exactly you do and what you specialize in.
Okay. I specialize in retirement at the moment. Uh, I'm age 75, uh, and I retired 3 years ago after 50 years in, yeah, the National Health Service. You know what National Health Service is. But that during that time, I spent that most of my, well, actually all of my time, actually in sexual health. I think the World Health Organization um, has actually fed into that over the years, that everyone's entitled to a functional, yes, and good sexual life. Peggy Kleinplatz is a professor like a psychology. um, she works, I believe, like in Ontario, but I could be wrong, or perhaps Montreal. And she asked people. Uh, she advertised for people like who thought they were great lovers. People had great sex. So, if you like, this is the obverse. This is the converse of people who have sexual dysfunction. And she looked like in great detail at actually, at what made these people have some great sex lives, and it was things like intimacy and being able to be vulnerable, with each other, and being able to talk to each other. So, in my book, I'm going to make a plug for my book, which is called Sexual Medicine, uh, um, a flawed physician's tale. Um,
Beautiful. I love that title.
well, because I'm flawed, but um, I describe a man who has diabetes, and before he had his diabetes, he had a penetrative sex with his partner, his female partner. After he had diabetes, he could no longer get an erection. But in fact, and there are treatments for that now, but he said it's not necessary because, but when I had the problem, we sat down and we became more intimate with each other, and it is not necessary for me to have penetrative sex. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're speaking to something that is so foundational to our not only sexuality and sexual wellness, but authentic and deep connection as well.
If people actually are looking for a partner these days, how do they do it? They go online. I'll just give you a history lesson. So when I was a youngster, like you went to a dance. It was a very strange thing that it was up to the men. The men had to ask the woman to dance, and then you got to know them. But now, um, uh, you get to know somebody because you assume that they're giving the correct details and the correct picture on there, and you can go into like a relationship, and you can just have sexual desire, pure straight sexual desire. I'm turned on by this person, and I want to have sex with this person. Now you can also fall in love. That's another whole issue that actually needs a talk on its own. Actually, falling in love is almost a psychiatric illness. It has many similarities to people who have obsessional compulsive disorders. So if you look at MRI scans of people who have OCD, they're quite similar if you show a picture of the loved one in an MRI scanner. I mean, it's not surprising because what you do, like if you're in love, like you think about the person all the time, you want to be with them. OCD, you think about hand washing all the time. Okay, so there's that.
Is desire, is it instinctual? Does it serve a purpose? Do we need desire?
Absolutely. Well, we need desire. I mean, I suppose we need desire, to procreate. How will we procreate? There was a very nice film called K-Pax, in which Kevin Spacey he came from another planet, and he said, "In my planet, in order to procreate, it's extremely painful, and people really have to think very hard about it." So, I think he was making a point that of course, it, the sexual desire, like, is there, so that we procreate, so that we procreate the species.
What are your thoughts on camming?
If it doesn't harm anybody,
Mhm.
I'm okay about it. If a man came to me and said, "Look, I have to cam because that's all, that's what I can do." But there may be all sorts of things going on there. There may be that he's got dyslexia; he can't express himself. Uh, it may be that he's actually shy. He's got social phobia. Yeah. Um, and I think that I'd have to peel off the layers to see what was. I mean, like, it's not doing anyone harm, so actually that's okay. In some countries in the world, like Israel, they actually, I think, they license these people. So you have a therapist, and you have the person with a sexual problem, and you have a surrogate. So the um, uh, the therapist will say, "Right, I want you to do such and such. I want you to massage each other at first." That's sensate focus, like just Masters and Johnson used to advocate. But they haven't got a partner. In fact, they use a surrogate.
In your years of experience, is there any particular block or issue that you've seen repeatedly that kind of prevents people from their sexual wellness?
I think at poor sexual education, having a poor sexual message, having a poor sense of body image, and things, sexual traumas, yeah, having an over religious background, so sex is a bad thing, yeah.
Mm.
But um,
So it sounds like the main issue, one of them that you've seen is the programming around sexuality in people, that the messages they got from their family, from their church, from, whatever it may be, that is one of the biggest blocks towards having a true sexually healthy life.
that's right. I mean, some of it may be sort of genetic. Um, like, we did some research about 15 years ago, and we found that a lot of the men who had fast ejaculation, uh, right, came from Middle Eastern or from the Indian subcontinent, and yeah, probably genetic. That's probably genetic. So actually, genetic in the factors are important too. But um, I think that, if you're brought up uh, and you're told that sex is something wholesome and to be, like, enjoyed. Yeah. I mean, we haven't broached the subject of sexuality at all, really, have we?
If you could share with the world one thing about human connection, human sexuality, anything that you just wish the world got and understood, what would it be?
I say I am human, or nothing human is alien to me. I should be able to go forward out in the world and have a certain amount of certain amount of self-assuredness, um, to explore, explore my sexual world. It makes sense.
Yeah. Like there should be enough confidence and
Yes.
permission to explore who you are
Yeah.
sexually, which we know society doesn't really give the permission to do that. And so you're saying within, we should have that permission to explore who we are with, of course, the boundary is harm to none, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. And uh, it, explore with a partner, explore your sexuality, um, and going at your pace, and also going at the partner's pace. So there's everything has to be with permission, but still being explored. And that takes me back to Peggy Kleinplatz and these people who were great lovers. Is that they explored, they understood, and they were open. Yeah, and
Right.
they took time. They took a long time over sex. It's not a quick in and out. It's um, you know, just hold your partner's hand for 10 minutes, see what that feels like. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's like true. It's intimacy, it's, and I think too that that is one of the overall bigger components that people may be missing is that because we're not properly educated about our true sexualities and because this is a part of our lives that does get kind of shoved into the corner, we view sex as something that's just this quick, it's just sexual experience, and that's not really fulfilling when it could be and maybe even should be so much more than that. Like you said, holding your partner's hand for 10 minutes or just bringing it back to camming, which we just discussed earlier. Members share their lives with these models. They discuss issues they're having. The model will build that person up and make them feel like they're worth something if they were having issues with that. Those things create true intimacy when you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel safe. And those are very important components of our sexuality. And I think that that's a really strong and important point to bring up that it's not just about intercourse. It's a lot more layered than that. And exploring those layers and diving into them is something all of us could probably do more to look into for sure.
yes, yes, absolutely.
What do you think our next steps are in creating a more sexually healthy society?
Um, I think it's all about education. It's about education, really, and saying actually what's normal, and what's not, what things shouldn't happen. Like sexual abuse shouldn't happen, and that telling children, that if it happens at home, it happens at school, or only tell people and explain about, as you said, intimacy. Intimacy can happen well before sex, even before people are sexual, and understanding about things like friendship, intimacy, and that can lead on. They can lead on to sexuality. So I think it's education, really, and the right education.
Thank you so much.